Hi, everyone. Welcome to One Stop Business Workshop. I'm Nicole Mendes, and I'm the VP of Scripted Development for Lark Productions, as well as the EP of the CBC series Allegiance. And I will be your moderator today. So I am a South Asian woman. My hair is in a braid, and I'm wearing a pink shirt. So today's session is about pitching to scripted, and by the end of the session, you will learn what each network or studio is looking for and how best to approach them to set your project up for success. So stay for the audience Q&A, where you can ask questions using the Zoom Q&A or the YouTube comment section. If we can't get to your question, we will do our best to provide some information via a follow-up email after. So please also note that ASL, closed captioning, and French translations are available if you are on Zoom, and if you're on YouTube, ASL and closed captioning are available. Before we get started, we wish to acknowledge those Indigenous nations on whose lands we live and work, as well as the treaty territories, the unceded territories, and nations from coast to coast on which we conduct our daily business. We are grateful to work on these lands. So now to introduce your panelists, who will state their name, position, and what channels they buy for, and give a brief description of themselves as well. So let's start with Marin.
Thanks, Nicole, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Marin. As Nicole just said, I am the Director of Development for CBC. I am a Black woman. I'm wearing glasses. My hair's in a ponytail up on top of my head, and I'm wearing a white and beige checkered shirt.
Thank you, Leah. Now, Susan Alexander, please.
Hi, everybody. My name is Susan Alexander. I have blonde hair and black glasses, and I'm wearing a black shirt. And I'm here in my home office. I am a production executive for Canadian scripted content at Chorus Entertainment. We look for content for our channels Global, W, Showcase, YTV, and Adult Swim.
Thanks, Susan. Let's go to Sheilla. Oh, Sheilla, you're on mute.
Hi, everyone. My name's Sheilla Theng. I'm the development coordinator of original programming at Bell Media, and I help develop series for Crave, CTV, and our specialty channels. I am a Southeast Asian woman wearing glasses. I've got shoulder-length hair, and I'm wearing a beige shirt.
Thanks, Sheilla. And how about Kale?
Hi, everyone. My name is Kale Stockwell. I work for Rogers Sports and Media as the head of original programming. I have dark hair, a dark beard, though rapidly graying, and I'm wearing a blue shirt. I oversee the original programming for all of our channels, which are City TV, FX, FXX, and OLN.
Thanks, Kale. We can't see the gray. And last but not least, Aron.
Hi, everyone. My name's Aron Levitz. I am president of Wattpad Webtoon Studios. I am not a buyer like the rest of the people on here, but we sell to all the people here and a lot more around the world. I am a Caucasian man wearing white glasses with brown hair and a vest and tie.
Thanks, Aron. So why don't we stick with you first, since you are a bit different than everyone else, and you're more of a studio. So can you tell us what you're looking for, and maybe give some examples with that, but also how people can work with you?
Yeah, for sure. So why don't I start by just saying what Wattpad and Webtoon are for those of you who have not run into our platforms before. But Wattpad is an online community of readers and writers where anyone can upload their first novel. Webtoon is similar, but for comics and graphic novels. We have about 160 million plus users around the world across those two platforms. And what the studio does is work with the IP on those platforms to develop them for film, TV, animation, as well as publishing and merchandising and other adaptations. What we're always looking for has to start with our platform. So it has to be a story that starts either as a web novel or a web comic. But we're always looking for people who have great takes on those. We know that we have to work with an amazing creative community to take those from words or pictures on the internet to moving pictures on a screen. So we're always looking for producers or writing partners who have amazing takes on the IP that's been created, and usually looking at some of the bigger or more trending topics on that. We're not genre specific. We have everything from horror to rom-coms, from straight up romance to drama and thrillers. But because of the way our communities work, we have stories with literally millions, if not billions of reads. We want to work with people who understand fandom, who understand that audiences can drive entertainment and can be respectful of that. Did I answer all that, Nicole? I think it was a two-part question, but I got lost in my own words.
It was definitely a two-part question. You gave us some great information in there. So just to clarify, Wattpad, you guys own your IP. So those books that go up on Wattpad, you guys own. How would somebody approach you to pitch something?
Right. So the way people pitch us, obviously the obvious way is through agents and whatnot. We get a lot of writers, directors, producing partners, but often you can reach out to us through emails. I think we'll share later, I believe, but we have writers who will find a story on our platform and put a take together on it, or a producer who's really excited about a specific story and come to us with their view of it. And we're always looking for that. We know we can't produce. We literally have millions of stories, so we cannot produce them all ourselves. So we are always looking for amazing creative partners to pitch us their view on some of our biggest stories.
Great. Thanks, Aron.
No problem.
Kale, I'll go backwards now. So what are you looking for at Rogers, and can you give some examples of that?
Sure. Yeah. At Rogers, we're a little bit different than some of the other broadcasters because we don't really have an over-the-top service offering. So we're really focused on network drama procedurals, and we primarily commission for City TV. So it's stuff in line with what would be airing presently on City TV, either our originals like Hudson Rex or Law & Order Toronto, or can sit alongside nicely with our American programming like the Chicagos or the Law & Orders. That's our main focus. I would say that drama procedurals are really is primarily what we're looking for. We're not looking for comedies. We're not looking for dramedies. We don't look for 30-minute programming. It's really our dramas. In terms of how what's the best way to pitch us, I always like to say I try not to make people go to too much trouble to produce these sort of big pitch packages. I feel like that's a lot of work for us, for them to not really totally understand if it's something that we're looking for. So a pitch page is usually fine, something with a log line and a synopsis on the project, and what they see is sort of the episode engine being, since we're looking for episodic programming, not serialized programming. Yeah.
I love that you answered my second question before I even asked it. Thank you. Doing my job for me. Sheilla, same question. What are you looking for at Bell? And can you give some examples, as well as what do you like to receive in terms of pitches?
For sure. So on the scripted side, we're mainly developing for CTV and Crave. CTV is our core linear channel, along with CTV comedy, and programming here is filling a primetime slot. And just needs to appeal to a broad audience. For CTV, we're mainly looking for hour-long procedurals, and you can think of that as in the realm of cops, doctors, and lawyers. An example of that would be Sight Unseen or Transplant. But we're also open to other worlds, like procedurals with a twist, I guess you would call them. They just have to have episodic stories and a procedural engine. I guess an example of that, it's not on our channels, but a good example is Call My Agent. And then for CTV comedy, we are looking for half-hour sitcoms. So this needs to be episodic, very repeatable, and this can range from workplace comedies to ensembles like Friends or something high concept, something like Good Place. And then we're just looking for something that's, funny forward and you can laugh at and the whole family can sit down and enjoy the show together. Something we have on our channels right now is Children Ruin Everything and Acting Good. Sorry, I have a little bit of a long spiel. And then for Crave, that's our streaming service. And there we were looking for serialized shows, very adult, premium, character driven. We want to drive subscribers and retain them. And generally, content there can be less conventional. Half hours do super well for us on Crave. And this is not just limited to comedy. We can do half-hour dramas, something like The Bear would work for us. And we're open to dramedies and different sorts of genre blends. We're very genre agnostic on that platform. Just a reminder that these kinds of series have to live alongside our US shows that we acquire. And then, so 1 hour dramas that are returning are a little bit of a tougher sell. Not to say that we would never do one, but just considering the acquisitions that we already get on the platform, when we're looking at hour longs, they got to have a really strong Canadian lens and not just be like a Mayor of Easttown, but it's set in Halifax. It's got to really have a good, strong point of view that's Canadian. So examples of this, I guess, on the comedy side, we do Letterkenny, Late Bloomer. Those have been doing well for us. And hour long is Little Bird. Little Bird is a period, and we don't commonly do those, but that was an exception. And we also don't do web series and children and YA programming. Yes, and there's
a lot. Yes. Material. What do you like to see?
The second part of your question for emerging writers and creators, what we love to see is a pilot script. It'll give us a good sense of how you write. It'll give a good sense of the tone of the show. Again, if you have like a 1-page or a pitch deck and like other creative materials, those are great as well. But the pilot is what's going to speak the most to us.
Thanks, Sheilla. Susan, same question. What are you looking for?
Same answer almost, really. We commission right now for Global TV, which is our big main linear network. We air a lot of simulcast American programming, so our Canadian programming. We want it to be big and glossy and mainstream and appeal to a big audience. A good example of that, we had Private Eyes on the network for 6 seasons, which was a lot of fun with Jason Priestley, a 1-hour procedural we call a light procedural. We currently have season 4 of Family Law shooting in Vancouver, proudly Canadian, showcasing the city, and about a dysfunctional family who run a family law practice. So we look for those kind of procedurals that, again, like Sheilla said, doctors, lawyers, medical, but we like to have a little bit of fun to them, I think, is probably what we look for the most. We also do some MOW wheels for W Network. We just did 2 sets of a series called The Love Club for that. And we also have YTV. We have a good history of great 1-hour dramas on YTV. Hardy Boys, for example, we've just launched a new one called Geek Girl, which is coming on Stack TV first, which is our streaming service, and then on YTV. But mostly we look for the 1-hour procedurals. We don't do half-hour comedies on our network. The other networks do them extremely well. So we will stick with what we do best.
Thanks, Susan. And pitch materials, what do you like to receive?
We like to have something for you to leave behind so that we can share it with our internal team. So a pitch deck is fine. If you have a script, we'd love to read it, especially if it's a writer that we don't know, because obviously a script shows us the voice of that writer. But if it's a writer that we do know, then we're fine with a pitch document to share internally.
Thanks, Susan. Leah, same question. What are you
Okay.
guys looking for?
We're echoing each other a little bit here, but we're also looking for contemporary procedurals, serialized shows, and limited series. And so examples, I think going backwards in terms of limited series, Blackberry is a recent example that aired for us this past year, which did really well. And then serialized would be Plan B, which was originally Radio Canada format, which we adapted for the English Canadian audience. And then procedural realm would be our most recent, I think, examples are Wild Cards and Allegiance, which was brought to us by Nicole and Lark. So we're very excited about both of those. And I think I'll just say that in terms of the procedurals, I think Wild Cards and Allegiance give a great example of tone in terms of what we're looking for. Like Wild Cards, probably a little bit more lighthearted and escapist. And I think, Allegiance, it has levity, it has humor as well, but I think it's just, it definitely is a bit more serious in terms of tone and what it's exploring with restorative justice and what's happening for our lead character, Sabrina, at the heart of that. So that just gives you a sense of the range of stories that we're looking for. In terms of what we like to see, I'd say the best way to, like Susan said, if you have script, whatever materials you have that you can bring to us, we will take a look at. I think what's important to be able to see from those materials is what is the story of this series? Who are our characters? What are their arcs, the world, and really get a vision and a sense of tone for the series. So if you can provide us with even a pitch deck or proposal that has that, that's fantastic. We don't need to have a script at the outset.
Great. Let's stick with you for a minute, Leah. Can you talk a bit about when's the best time to pitch and what experience level you're looking for when people come to pitch you?
Absolutely. So for us, I'd say, right now is prime time to come and meet with us and to pitch us your ideas. Ideally, we will take pitches all throughout the year, to be honest, because even though we are connected to the CMF window and when it opens and closes, we're just happy to continue to have conversations with folks. We probably really close up shop and don't take meetings in January, but generally April until the end of summer is prime time to reach out to us and pitch us your ideas, because that's when we're actively putting projects into development. And then the second part of your question was, remind me again, Nicole?
Experience level,
Yes.
but also do people need a producer to come and pitch?
So with experience level, in terms of the creatives, the writers, absolutely, you need to have credits, you need to have representation, ultimately. You don't have to have written a slew of projects, but you definitely have to have experience in writing. And we have examples of people that have probably only been on perhaps one show, and so it's very early in their careers. And then, of course, there are veteran writers that we work with. In terms of the producer, you will definitely need to have a production company or producer attached to the project to go into development. We can't put anything into development without that partnership. And for us, when we're considering producers, they have to have produced a television series within the past 5 years. So they have to have that experience as well. In terms of, will we look at something without the producer attached? We will do temperature checks and kind of have an opportunity to give writers an opportunity to check in and see if it's a fit for us. And we're happy to do that. But as I said, the minute that we think something's a possibility for development, we definitely want to make sure there's a production company that the creative team is very in sync with and has the right rapport with to be able to take it to the next level.
Leah, I feel like I'm probably going to have the similar answer from our other Canadian buyers, but Susan, anything to add to that in terms of producer, time to pitch, experience level?
Absolutely. I totally agree with everything Leah said. If you're a new writer, we are happy to pair you up with a more experienced writer. A good example of that is we had a great script that came into us of a limited series a while ago called Mary Kills People. And the writer was fairly new to the industry, and we paired her up with an experienced showrunner that we had worked with a lot. And that ensured for us that we would get the show made, but it also ensured that the younger writer had great support and training as she learned her craft on her show. And within 3 seasons, she was, showrunner material. So it's really important to us that we set people up for success. And I know my colleagues on the panel feel the same way. And so we will always look to make sure that the people that we're working with, both in development and production, that there's enough support and experience around, especially in the writing room, to ensure success.
Thanks, Susan. I mean, again, Sheilla, I feel like probably similar for Belle.
Yeah, definitely echoing a lot of what Lee and Susan already said. And yes, we take submissions at all time of the year. You can send us your submission technically at any stage, but it is harder for us to come on board if it's too early in development. For us, a log line or synopsis, usually that's not enough. We kind of want you to know what your show is about. But yeah, we accept creators and producers of all levels. We do encourage you to be able to go out there and find a producing partner with experience, especially TV experience. That's super important. And we do kind of take that into consideration when we decide whether or not we're going to go into development. We want to know that the development can come together on a business side and creatively. And, with this kind of partnership, you're approaching us, the network, at the right time. Generally, we kind of want to be the last stop. But yeah, in the end, we just kind of want to make, good TV. So if our team loves your idea, we love what you've read, what we've read, then we will match you and pair you with a production company that has the right credits.
Kale, same answer, different network?
Yeah, pretty much. Summer is a good time to pitch us. Definitely. I'd say we have kind of less bandwidth to read lots and lots of pilots. So it's not really something we're interested in. I would say for any new writers, we would want them to come definitely with an experienced production company attached. I think we rely maybe a little bit more on people like Nicole to do some of the heavy development lifting beforehand and bring us those really good ideas so that they're a little bit more ready to go when we see them, just because we don't really have the capacity to be pairing people and doing more writer development stuff. So that's probably the only difference for us.
So Aron, I know we kind of talked a bit about the platform earlier. I'm not sure if there's anything to add because people can upload to the platform in terms of writers, and you talked a bit about how people can approach you, but anything else to add?
I mean, only to say that we don't take any time off. These people tell me when you can, what is this? We are producing year round, but we produce outside of Canada a lot too, US, across Europe, even Southeast Asia. So for us, our job is to do a lot of what the fine people on this panel are getting asked to do. We are packaging, we are doing development, we are bringing a seasoned writer in with a new up and coming voice, we are finding producing partners. So that is what we do every day. So we are, my development team will be reading scripts and samples constantly. So but we do like that if you are going to come to us, that there's a story that has piqued your interest. That's the one thing we will always put out, like our open writing assignments through agents and whatnot. But if a writer has a story that they love already, authentically, maybe they're part of the fandom, like that really moves the needle for us.
Mm-hmm. And you get involved sort of, it sounds like at all stages, or I guess for a TV property or film property, when do you get involved?
Yeah, we're involved from day one. In fact, I have a whole team that is just searching our platforms for the right IP to even start with. So we can be to be all nerdy a bit, but like sometimes we'll find a great producing partner like an Imagine Entertainment, which we're working on with a few projects, and we'll go and pitch to buyers together. Other times, we shot a film called Boot Camp where we, from all the way from finding the story on our platforms to producing it, financing it, and putting it out into the world, that was all us. So we can really play a lot of different roles. Because I like to keep my team on their toes, we kind of are very nimble in how we approach things. So if you are a writer and you do have a really great producing partner, we're happy to be like little P producers. And in other cases, we'll take capital P as long as they get a walk-on role in everything we do. That's the only thing that matters. That is not true. I don't know how humor is going to come across there, but yeah, like because we kind of come from a bit of a different vein of how entertainment is made, we like to keep as open mind as possible to finding great creative partners.
Great. I think you already answered this, but how do people get their pitches to you?
In general, like I said, most of it does come through representation. If you have a pitch on one of our stories and you want to fire it to studios@wattpad.com, that is a great place to do it. You can always send it there. But I'd say most of our pitches from writers or writers who are interested in the platform do come through representation of some sort.
Awesome. Great. So Kale, again, sort of similar question, but will be different as a broadcaster, but when do you guys get involved? Again, I think you have probably covered this, and how do people get their pitches to you?
Yeah, we get involved typically at the development stage, and sort of like I said, I don't want to reiterate too much, but we really rely more on the production companies to, I think, source and find what they think is a really good story, and then bring it to us, understanding what our needs and expectations are. And then from there, we'll either engage in the development process or we'll take a pass. To get stuff to us or to pitch to us, it's not so dissimilar to what Aron said. Like through a production company, I think is really the best and most effective way to do it. That's sort of the easiest way for us to manage the amount of stuff that's coming through. We do take direct submissions, and there is an email address that's just submissions@rci.rogers.com, and someone can write that maybe in the chat or something. But in terms of if you really want to get in touch with us and do a legitimate face-to-face pitch, I would encourage everyone to work through the production company channels. That's always easier.
Great. Sheilla, same question. How do people get their pitches to Bell?
Yeah, so you guys can go to bellmedia.ca /producer guidelines to learn exactly what you need to submit to us. We have a general inbox. It's scripted at bellmedia.ca. And all of our team looks at the inbox and we chat with one another. We do appreciate if you can be patient with us because we are a very small team.
Susan, do you guys also have a website? How do people pitch you?
No, we don't. We are, again, I think like Kale said, we rely on our production partners and their development teams to bring forward concepts that they think will fit our channels. So we prefer that unsolicited scripts just because the volume would be massive. And every great production company out there has a development team that are looking for great ideas to hone and shape, and they're the ones who really know what the different partners and broadcasters are looking for. So as a writer, they can help you shape your concept to bring to us and to the other people, because we tend to be the last kick of the can. We're either a yes or a no, whereas I think a production company can come to all of us with the same idea and pitch it to a variety of different people. So, and they really know what everybody's looking for. So my advice would be to find a production partner, a development partner who who whose company does the sort of the same tone and style of stuff that you're pitching, and then they will know who might be interested in that.
And Leah, I do know the answer to this question, but how do people get their pitches to you?
They can reach out directly to our development manager, Mika Kiernan, and we can put her email address up in the chat at a later point today. I would also suggest that you do check out the Independent Producers Guide, because there's more information on how to pitch to us. And I'm here just representing drama. We do also have other teams, and comedy is on there as well. So I would recommend you take a look at that, because it also has a bit more information just about what specifically we're looking for and more that I'm able to offer today.
So do you guys still have the independent producers general inbox? Because fun fact, I used to monitor that. There is a human being on the other side of it.
And we will not. It's actually shutting down. Part of that was the pitch portal was going to, I think, eliminate the need for that. But I think it's just also made more sense for people to reach out directly to us than have to kind of monitor both. But no, Nicole, it's going to be gone as of, I think, next week, to be honest.
End of an era.
Yeah.
All right. I feel like we've covered the other questions here, and I'm seeing a lot in the Q&A. So maybe we will jump to the Q&A. Oh boy. Okay. Question 1. What are 3 things that make a great pitch for you? I'm going to direct these individually so that we can get through as many as we can. So 3 things that make a great pitch for you, Susan.
Okay. Enthusiasm is one. We like to hear that people are excited about the concept. Really understanding what we're looking for on our channels, I think, is the main thing. It's so important that you like Canadian product and that you watch it so that you really know what the Canadian broadcasters are looking for. That's 2. And I think clarity of vision. It's not enough just to come say, I have an idea about a casino. You have to really make it your own: characters, tone, style, settings. And I would suggest that you have a couple of sort of episode ideas that you can talk to. If somebody says to you, tell me an episode, I don't quite understand the premise, or something like that, you have to be able to talk not just about your overall concept, but maybe go into a little bit of specific.
1, 2, 3. Perfect. Okay, Sheila. So to present the story, is it possible to give you a general brief of the idea, and then if you're interested, then present the complete story? Like, how much information should writers be presenting you?
I would say that we do want a general idea of where you're going to go with the series. We kind of want to know who your characters are, what's going to happen, what the series is about. Just if the question is if it's just going to be useful for us to just hear a log line, not so much. We kind of want to know as much as we can about the series.
If someone has a pilot script and a pitch document, do you want both, or do you want one or the other?
We want both. That would be perfect.
Great. Okay, for Kale, does the producer attached to the project need to be someone who has produced a show, or can it be a producer that has done a web series? Like, what level of experience are you looking for from the producer?
I think because we're really primarily developing for prime time, we would say that yes, the producers definitely has to have produced a show, probably a network prime time show already.
There's also a bit of a part 2 of this question. For Leah, CBC requires that a producer be attached to any pitches. Well, I guess, oh, sorry. So that question, so CBC requires a producer being attached. And for all of the other buyers, do you require a producer to be attached? I know, Aron, it's going to be different for you, but Susan, Sheila, and Kale, you all want a producer attached.
I can jump in first. The way that our Canadian Media Fund works, we commission with the production company. So yes, a producer does have to be attached. It's that simple to get the money flowing. Yeah, yes.
Sheila and Kale, probably same thing.
Yeah, same thing.
I actually could add, strangely can add something here, Nicole.
Yes,
I would
please
say
do.
if we are producing, if you want to produce a Canadian production, if that's your interest, then we too would find a Canadian producer to work with us on that to get said money flowing. So if you're less worried about where you want to produce something, where you want to sell it, if you're thinking more globally, then we don't necessarily bring on a Canadian producer with us. But if it's something specifically for these other fine humans on this panel, we'll often work with a Canadian producer just for some weird, strange corporate reasons that I will save you all from hearing about.
I mean, I want to know what those reasons are. We can talk later, but
The real reason is, in theory, we are now a Korean company. So because we were acquired by a Korean company a while ago. So Korean or US company, depending on the week. So to get those Canadian credits, we will work with a Canadian producer. So example, on that movie Boot Camp I discussed, we worked with Great Pacific to produce it.
Mhm. And is it, again, producers at all levels, or are you looking for people who have a track record?
Track record is always helpful, as honest as that can be. We will work with people like if you've done a really successful web series, short film, because I have a team of pretty seasoned producers, like we can find people who have a great vision and really understand our IP and work with them in a way that maybe the other panelists can't. But we're able to, even if you're a more up and coming producer with some kind of background, we can bring in like another, either use us or another producer to kind of strengthen it as we go out.
Mm-hmm. Great. Leah, I'll ask you this question. If a project has already received pre-development from CMF or Bell Slate Fund, does it change its perception / evaluation for you?
No. I mean, ideally, if you've received pre-development money, then you've been able to, I think, get the story along and push it more creatively. So we're just as interested to see it at that point.
Okay, there's a question here about copyright, and I feel like the copyright question is always a very complicated one. But the question is, does our work need to be copyrighted before pitching? This is a bit of a business affairs question in terms of who owns the copyright. Susan?
Sure, I'll give it a crack. You'd be surprised at how many people have similar ideas. And because of that, the more you can do to ensure that your idea is yours alone is really beneficial to you. So I think you can still register your idea with the WGC, I think. And just, simple things like a date on it, a name on it, things that make it obviously yours are very helpful.
And I believe all of the broadcasters here have a submission release form. Yeah, everybody's nodding yes. So when you're submitting a project, you're signing a submission release form for this very reason, similar ideas. Not sure if anybody has anything else to add in terms of that.
Just that for us, you have to own it to be able to sign that release. So I do think it's actually, to add to Susan's point, it's important for you to have that copyright so that you are in a position to be able to sign off on that release.
Mm-hmm. So I'll go around the table on this one. Aron, are there any themes or genres that you're oversaturated on?
Not really, because we're searching for, the way I'd say it is, we have this really deep view into what people love. And so if the whole world will continue to love rom-coms, as it appears is true, then we will continue to love rom-coms, and we'll find the one that we think best exemplifies a story that we can tell. So for us, because we are not limited by a number of hours on a broadcast network, and we can work with partners all over the world, we're just as likely to be producing a horror in Philippines as we are a thriller in the UK. So for us, we let the audience tell us what genres are important and we work from there. And then I go, like I said, flood the rest of these panelists with those ideas. So for us, it is only limited by the ideas on our platforms.
Great. Good to know. Kale, do you have too much of something?
Too much. We're really only looking for one thing. So we're looking for 1 hour procedural dramas. If it's a comedy, if it's a genre show, if it's 30 minutes, we're just not interested at this point.
Yeah. Sheila?
I wouldn't say no to anything other than what I've mentioned before. We don't do YA, we don't do web series, we don't really do period, obviously with some exceptions. But in terms of procedurals, maybe I can add that we aren't really looking for things with two-handers. So basically 2 leads. We kind of are looking more at this moment for a lead with a very strong team behind them.
Great. Susan, anything you guys have too much of?
Not so much too much of it, but I think that we do look for something that's different from what we've done before. So we find when we have a successful show like, say, Private Eyes, we get a lot of pitches that are so similar, like a Him and Her. And we've done that. We're looking to do something a little bit different.
Leah, same question.
I mean, I'd echo Susan and what she just said, but I will add that for us specifically, we do have right now a lot of investigative dynamic duo, kind of the two-hander ideas coming in. And so we'll never say never, we won't not look at them, but I think in terms of hitting a saturation point, that's probably where we're seeing more similar ideas come through right now.
And maybe a question, I mean, it might be splitting hairs, but I mean, roughly ballparking it, like, is there a percentage of like how many shows from development get made? Leah, maybe we'll start with you on that.
I think it changes for us from year to year. It's dependent on what's on the schedule and what's going on for us. And I think, what's happening financially, to be frank, for the institution in the moment. So it changes. But I would say it's never more than one, it's not going to be more than a handful for us. Like it's quite limited in terms of how many we'll actually pick up per year.
I see Susan nodding, so assuming the same thing for chorus.
Yeah, we try to do sort of between 1 and 3 1-hour dramas a year across all of our channels. In leaner years, it will be less. And I know we all know that we're in a bit of a leaner period right now. And then, we can only do as many new as we don't have returning. So we will always look to shows that we currently have on the air. Are they going to get a new season? And if they are, that takes it away from a new one. If they aren't getting any more seasons, that gives us more opportunity to commission new series. So it's a bit of an ebb and flow.
Sheila, you program for a lot of different channels. How does this work for you in terms of like a percentage, but also maybe for you a question of if something is being developed for one network, could it move to another one? Could it move to Crave between CTV?
So I would say I have a similar answer to Leah and Susan. It just kind of depends on what's already airing. Like we have a transplant, do we want another one? Our slots are quite limited on the linear side. So we're really trying to look at what's missing. What are we looking forward to next? I don't have an exact number on what we're greenlighting per year, but unfortunately it's not as much as we would love to commission. In terms of your second question, usually, so I would say like the best advice I can give for coming to us with a pitch is that whether your show belongs on CTV or Crave. And we don't really want to hear that, oh, it could be CTV or it could be Crave. We kind of want to know if it's one or the other. And we want you to know your show and where it belongs. And what we have on our channels already. So usually, if it's developed for Crave, we're gonna air it on Crave, and usually it's not gonna go on CTV. It's not gonna fit there.
And Kale, same question in terms of approximately, percentage wise, how much you move from development into production.
Yeah, it's not dissimilar to what everyone else has said. Maybe closest to what Susan was saying. We have a smaller slate, so I'd say the percentage is pretty low, to be honest. And our slate now is pretty solid, so I don't see that moving up anytime soon, especially considering the economics that Susan and Leah both mentioned. I would say we are always doing development, and I don't want anyone to be discouraged by the fact that things don't move forward. Development can be a really good process for any project, and if it doesn't end up with us, it can end up somewhere else. And so I would encourage people to still go through it, but the percentages are obviously, they're not very high.
Aron, and again, you guys are a bit different as a studio. I mean, I don't know if you want to tackle that in terms of like, I can't even wrap my head around the amount of stuff you have on Wattpad that becomes movies or TV show ideas.
That number does not work. You divide a very small number by a gigantic number. So we don't really think that way. I'd say, look, at any given time, we have 100 plus projects in like real development. And when I say real development, it means we've either put money behind development or we have a buyer who's come on to clean IP. Just so everybody knows, sometimes depending on the buyer and depending where in the world, sometimes they like us to just bring the story to them and then we develop with the buyer. In other cases, we really have to package things up and almost be ready to go before we'll bring it to a buyer. And that rotates, things do end up in the icebox in development, as we say, not everything comes to fruition. It doesn't mean they don't come back. So, always trying to keep our development slate at over 100 projects. And that's usually split about half English language, a little more than half English language, and the rest in about 8 languages around the world. So, for us, it's making sure we have a good top of pipeline, that we're always seeing new ideas and new visions on the IP that we have, because the IP is always regenerating. New stories are uploaded every day onto both platforms. As for like our percentage of hitting to production, I actually don't think I'm allowed to share that with y'all, but I would love to one day. But my lawyers are listening and they will get me in trouble. But we've had really, honestly, really great success for still what's a fairly new studio on that standpoint.
That's awesome. Well, we don't want to get you in trouble, so I
Please
won't.
Please don't. I do that myself well enough.
So there's a lot of questions sort of about, feels a bit cart and horse in terms of how are you supposed to get something produced if you haven't produced, like feels a bit like a catch-22. I don't know if anybody has any advice on that. I mean, I've got some ideas, but maybe we'll start, Leah, if you have any advice on that.
Sure. I mean, I think it's not dissimilar to what we talked about with pairing writers up with more experienced writers, showrunners, and teams. And so we are willing to have those conversations with emerging creators or producers, rather, about partnering with production companies that have track records. And I think that is the way to bring people into the pathway to get something off the ground, but also to gear the team up for success. Because if you haven't had the experience, then you don't know what you don't know. So you really want that support. So that's one way, and let other people chime in as well.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody has anything else to add on that. I mean, yeah, just the partnering thing, right?
Yeah, I think just to add to that, we are an industry where you learn by doing, and you gain experience that brings you up the ladder slowly, quite often. So get into a room, get involved in other people's shows, learn the craft. You can only, it's really important to have your own ideas, but at the same time, it's really important also to be able to work on other people's series. And any writer's room has, a junior position, a mid-level position, a senior position, and those people keep moving up the ranks and eventually become showrunners in their own right, that people will trust with getting their shows on the air. And if somebody is interested in your show, like I said before, they will pair you with people who will make sure that works. So I think both systems work, both of, having helped get your own show made and then also working on other people's shows and building your community.
If I can, not to put Nicole on the spot or to steal from Susan too much, but also I think Susan put it really well, which is that the production companies, the big production companies have development people that are always out there, always looking, always connected to what's going on. And I think that's such a crucial step in the ladder in terms of getting to the broadcasters. I can only speak for myself and say we just don't have the people or the bandwidth to be doing that kind of work. So we rely on companies like Lark to kind of do that for us. And if they bring us something that they believe works and we think can work for us, and we can pair it with another writer or producer that knows the industry a little bit better, has been around a little bit longer, we can do that. But I think that's that sort of crucial middle section that maybe is not being communicated as well by us.
Oh, well said. So Sheila, do you take sci-fi and fantasy series? Where does Bell stand with genre these days?
So we are actually open to genre, specifically sci-fi. I would say that you should keep in mind the kinds of budgets we have. We're working with Canadian budgets. Unfortunately, I don't think we can, make the next Star Wars. So we're kind of wanting to look for sci-fi that's a little bit more grounded. But yes, we are open to genre, horror,
And Susan, there was a time where chorus did genre. You guys still open to genre?
Well, we used to do a lot for Showcase, but in leaner time, we tend to concentrate on global, which is more of a straight ahead channel. So we're not really looking for genre that much. I think perhaps the exception to that rule might be YTV, where we just did Hardy Boys, which had certainly had a very sort of genre-esque tone and style to it. But mostly we're looking for straight ahead procedurals.
Okay, I'm going to stick with the genre questions. And this is, I'm curious about this one. So Aron, I'm going to ask you first. How would you define YA? What's the age range for a YA show?
Oh, man. This question, I love it. YA is not an age range. It's not a demographic, it's a psychographic. It's about, because I will as happily watch Wednesday and Avatar: The Last Airbender as anything else. It is usually more about a coming of age or change that can have the backdrop of any genre. So the concept that YA is, just high school drama, actually age doesn't matter. There's a lot of high school dramas that the high schooler who is taking care of a whole family already, like that is not YA. So the age doesn't matter. It's more the thematics that matter. And if you choose YA to say, oh, I'm doing this only for 13 to 18-year-olds, you're actually missing the power of YA. YA has the power to have viewers across any age group. So we do a ton of YA. I mean, that's, I think, what Wattpad is known for, and Webtoon as well. So when I hear, we take YA, we don't take YA, you really have to dive into what the definition of it is. But to me, it's never an age range, because I probably watch more I don't know if I watch any adult shows. So, and I'm not YA age range, I will tell you that much.
I'm stealing that. I'm so stealing that. But Susan, I'm going to ask you the same question because you program for YTV.
Yeah, we do. It's interesting. I mean, we have robust kids and we have robust adults. YA tends to sit, for Aron, but YA for us tends to sit a little bit outside of those two brackets. We do have, for instance, we have a series that we're launching, I think I spoke about, called Geek Girl, and it's about a teenage girl who is bullied at school but finds her way coming of age in modeling, and it's a really fun show. We know that kids watch up a little bit, so we're assuming the audience for that is going to be, young teen girls. But it's a good show. Anybody will watch it, and I think co-viewing, family viewing is really important as well. So yeah, if it's a great show, I think we'll do it for hoping that we'll find an audience for it.
Thanks, Susan. So we're coming close to the end of our time, and this is a question from the chat, but it is a question that I had too. So, what Canadian show do you wish that your network had on the air? So I'll start with Leah.
It's a shout out to Belle. It's going off the air, but Transplant was one of the shows that we've just always, everyone on our team has really admired. It's such a great show. And it was one of the, I think I was asked that question when I first started at CBC, and that was my answer. And I think it still stands. There are so many, but that is the one that definitely comes to mind.
Susan?
Well, I wish we had Law and Order Toronto. What an audience. I mean, unbelievable. Congratulations, Kale and the team, we make shows for an audience, and wow, did that ever bring in a phenomenal audience. So it just goes to show that formats work alongside Canadian originals. So that's a pretty exciting one for our community to have seen a Canadian team make such a robustly watched show.
That's great to hear. Sheilla?
Oh my gosh, I had the same answer as Susan, Law and Order Toronto. Congrats on that. That was, yeah, we love that show and wish we had
it. Kale, you can't say Law and Order Toronto.
We're happy to have it. You know what? There's lots. To be honest with you, I think we could kind of steal from everyone. Lots of scripted. I obviously I like Allegiance. Family Law is a really good light procedural that I think would work really well on City TV. And then even unscripted stuff like Big Brother Canada is such a great show that drives so much audience and people love it. And yeah, we could steal from everywhere. If we had more slots, then we could do it.
And Aron, are you able to answer this question? I don't know how it works with the studio.
I don't know. Like, I could be jealous of like you guys in New Metric for doing amazing things. I can be sad that I didn't get to produce Blackberry since I worked there at one point. But no, I get to cheat and say I wish I produced anything that's on Canadian Air that I didn't do. So,
That's a lovely way to end that. So I guess we'll wrap things up. Thank you so much to all of our amazing panelists. We would also like to thank the planning partners, CMPA and Cavco, for their continued support on the One Stop series. We hope you, as our audience, found this session useful and that you will be able to join us at another One Stop Business workshop session. The next session is tomorrow and is pitching to create documentary and factual content at 1 p.m. Eastern. So after this, we will send out follow-up emails, which will include a document with today's takeaways and a link to CBC's Independent Producers website, where you can watch previous One Stop Business Workshop videos. There will also be an evaluation form, so it would be great if you could fill that out so we can learn from you how we can better give you this information that you need and want. So with that, I would just like to thank everybody for being here. Thank you to the audience for all of your great questions, and to our hosts, the CBC. This has been fantastic. Thank you.
And thank you, Nicole, for moderating.
Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My pleasure.